General Protocol Spaces, banking on freedom.
Welcome to General Bull number 56. We're again talking about XO because it's something we spend a huge amount of time on and it's very important. So we're going to go through, start with the friendly stuff, introductions, high level, what is XO, and then we're going to devolve into some kind of fight at some point, probably, and it'll be exciting because we're going to talk about the development of XO and the decisions that we need to make because we're doing things that haven't been done before, and so nobody knows exactly the right thing to do, and we're working through those one at a time as we build up XO and publish it, all open source. So let's get started with some introductions. I'm John. I'm Emergent Reasons. I just try to keep things together, help with code reviews, and all the magic is actually being done by the other guys, by the developers here. So just in order that's here on Twitter, Jonathan, could you introduce yourself and say a little bit about what you've been working on in the XO context?
Sure. Yeah. So I'm Jonathan. Most of the people listening probably already know me because I've been on a lot of these general bulls before. But yeah, I'm doing the research side. I'm structuring up how templates should look, and I'm generally the problem solver. I try to find multiple solutions to the various problems we come across and try to understand all the trade-offs so that we can make good decisions.
It's a one-man R&D department. That's a compliment, by the way. A big compliment. All right, you name?
Yep.
Hey, so yeah, I introduced myself many times before, but in the context of XO, I am singularly responsible for bugging everyone and annoying the shit out of them about shifting trust from dApps to template in every single meeting I join. So yeah, that's me.
Stay on target. He's the little voice in Luke's head that's telling us to stay on target. Yep. Sakib, you're next on my list on Twitter.
Hey guys, so I think this is my third or fourth GP space, so I'm not as well known perhaps as everyone else, but in the GP team I kind of work behind the scenes, but my role in XO is to try and turn this amazing technical development that we're building and the architecture into a viable product that is going to hopefully get adopted mainstream across the world as a financial application. So turning the tech into something tangible that everybody can embrace and enjoy and change the world.
Hell yeah. Kiok, what should we call you on the Twitter space?
Hey, either works. You can call me Kiok. My original name is Kuldeep.
All right. Okay.
Whatever you like.
We're gonna just roll the dice. All right. So Kiok, quick introduction. Who are you and what are you doing on XO?
All right. So I used to work with Zapit. Been in this space Bitcoin Cash for about 5-6 years. So for XO, I recently started working on XO a few months ago as the lead of the project. So basically, all the planning, decision making goes through me. So my work has been progressing and evolving as I started working on it. Initially, from basically interrogating the existing vision to now actually enabling it and setting directions for it. That's what I do here.
Excellent, thank you. And this is a big deal. In case you didn't catch it, he has the very heavy responsibility of making the decisions, which is heavy, right? When you're working on something new, when you're working on something that's well established, like making a website that many people have made similar things, or some app that other people have done and it's well understood, that's not such a big deal because, you know, most things are already understood what needs to be done and the decisions aren't that big. But with XO, like I said earlier, though, it's a big open-ended space that nobody has really explored before, and we're having to make decisions that are very heavy, that have big consequences, and he has to deal with all of our stupid ideas and put all of our stupid ideas together and decide which is the best of the stupid ideas to implement. So, thank you very much for doing that.
Yeah, so far it's been going pretty great. You guys have really incredible way of thinking through things. Definitely very fruitful and rewarding to work on this project.
Oh wow! Okay, great. Okay, Harvey on Twitter, it says you're next on the list.
Yeah, so my name is Harvey. I've mostly been working on the app or the front end side of XO, so taking the libraries, putting them into an app that you can play with from outside of the command line. I think that's about it. That sums up most of it at the moment.
Yeah, that's it. But it's very important because when you're working on something like XO, that's a framework. It's to some degree, it's like it's all in your head, right? For the developers who are building it, because you can't really trust yourself as a framework developer to judge how good the framework is for users. You know, that's a famous error. So it's very helpful that that you're building the CLI and actually using it and seeing how it works and what it looks like from a developer's perspective. And later, Harvey will also be working on building XO proper. So thank you for that, Harvey. Okay, that's good. Thank you guys for the introductions. Let's get into the actual discussion. So I was hoping to start with just a quick high-level overview of a little bit about what XO is. It's very important, but we've talked about it a lot, so not too much on that. But what is XO at a very high level? And if we don't do a good enough job, Uname will jump in and yell at us for not talking about the most important things. So watch out for that. And then the other thing is what's done and what's not done and what's still kind of unknown. I was thinking about those three things. So Kyaku, you wanna give us that real quick?
Yeah, sure. So as you said, XO system itself is very complicated, and there are a lot of unanswered questions as we move forward in making this a product that can be used by millions or perhaps billions of people in future. So basically, if in a nutshell, XO is a representation of how the contracts are dealt with in the underlying blockchain, but then it would give a pretty good human, meaningful nature to it. For example, if you're doing some interaction with one contract system, this will let you make sense of what you're doing, and then also on top of it, let you make decisions on what to do in the next steps. Ultimately, XO as a system helps make basically the next wallet for the Web3 ecosystem, which unites, which makes it much easier as an experience for users to not think about the internal details significantly, but at the same time make it very easy for them to use the underlying power that the blockchain provides. So in order to do this, XO itself has to be pretty big and complicated. Although as much as one would like to make it small, it's still a very complicated system to be to exist basically. So there are few parts in the XO system that I'll talk about, and then I'll say where we are for them, and then what ultimately what's the result that we have over the work that we have been doing. So a few parts in the XO is basically the central part is, of course, the engine itself. But the engine just makes decisions based on the underlying foundational characteristic, which is the template itself. For example, P2P Edge can be represented as a template, so it can be made sense for regular users and basically everybody else to interact with it, and similar for other contract systems. But it's not just that, because when you're providing a human nature to it, you also need to make sure that ultimately uh, it's trustworthy, it's predictable, it doesn't fail randomly, and it provides all the properties that are expected out of such a complex system. Yeah. So basically, I'll tell you what engine actually does right now is that it understands. So it understands what a template is doing. It understands what is expected out of it when a user wants to behave, wants to make some action out of it. For example, if one has to send money from one party to another party, it understands what is the intent behind the action that the user is trying to make. It understands that it needs to store it, and it needs to keep things precisely so that the next follow-up steps can also be done, and just by the engine itself. It understands everything that a template has to offer, all the actions, all the expectations for deriving something, for example, deriving locking by code, making sense of different inputs for various different contract systems. And it provides a uh, very fairly easy way for one to interact with it and uh, go by. So that's where we are right now for the engine. It also has the ability for multi-party interaction. So one party can be using one contract, one template. The same template can be used by the other party, and they don't need to know anything else about any legacy existing wallet system. All they need to do is just have a shared communication channel, and the engine will do the rest and make the transactions. So engine also understands how to make a transaction over the network. It understands what the template is trying to do. So I would say pretty reasonable place right now. We are also underway in making the first beta release pretty soon for various packages that the engine has. And let's see where we go from there.
Okay, thank you very much. Uname, are you gonna have to jump in and remind us of the 10 Commandments, or?
No, there's just one commandment. Is this the time to repeat it, or?
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only one commandment. There's no 10, and it is the observed fact that if you shift trust towards components of the whole system where it is less frequently downloaded and having to trust all over again, then that trust is more powerful. So if you have to, so say if the user have to click, I trust this, I want to do all this for every single dApp that they come across, which in a robust ecosystem there will be many. um then the end result is that people would either just click mindlessly and the trust will be kind of meaningless, or in a very hostile environment they will be very reluctant to try out new dApps, which is harmful for the ecosystem because I don't know what's out there, and I don't want to spend a lot of time and effort investigating them. um, so they would stick to the default view, and the default view might even not entirely have their ducks in a row. They might have that trust hinge entirely on the DNS system, which in an increasingly hostile world might not be the most reliable. So the solution is that if you shift trust towards a less frequently downloaded and refreshed component, then it can be made more powerful, and people can spend more time and effort and giving out that trust. And if you don't have to do it that often, then the whole thing becomes more trustworthy because everyone has limited amounts of time. And the solution to that, for some systems, that the solution to that is just the wallet itself. But the wallet itself is not very adaptive. You can't adapt it to the scenario of having many, many dApps, some of them new for you to try out. So the solution is to shift that trust to templates, where a template has where the template constrains what dApps can do, but allows for many different dApps with perhaps different parameters and oracles and whatnot for people to try out. And as long as it constrains those dApps in a meaningful way, people can put their trust in those constraints. In a way where they do it an order or two one or two orders of magnitude less than what they would otherwise have to do with just investigating every single freaking dApp that they come across in an exploding ecosystem. So yeah, that's the one very long commandment.
Yeah, I wanna touch on that because you said trustworthy, and I think that demands a little bit of explanation. So, what XO does isn't make more people trust, because more trust isn't necessarily better, right? It makes things more trustworthy, and I think one of the most easy to miss things is that if you go to an app today, say Cauldron or some other place, and it works for you today, then you are happy today. But when you go back at some time in the future, that app might not be the same app that you believe it is, right? Because they can update. As long as the app is external to you, it can update, it can change, it can get hacked, it can become malicious. There are a numerous amount of ways in which things can go really, really wrong on an external side. But when you move the logic of that application over to a template that you import once into your wallet, then that app can update as much as it wants, and it can try to do things as differently as it wants, and it can even get hacked by malicious actors. But it will not be able to make your wallet do something that you don't want it to do automatically. Which means that, like, take for example, if you have a template for like a simple swap between two tokens, right? Where you go to a website today and you swap 10A for 10B, and you're happy. You go back the next time and secretly a malicious hacker has moved in, and now it's 10,000A for 10B, but all your current system sees is, do you want to approve yes or no? That would be horrible. Now, most wallets have protected today against the most naive of these kinds of attacks by showing you like how many tokens do you gain or how many tokens do you lose inside of your wallet. But this setup is entirely dependent on your wallet being stupid enough in a lot of cases that it can make a very strong assertion that this is the case. If you instead have, say, 3 smart contracts, right? You have one smart contract where you have your funds today, and then you have one smart contract where you're making this change, where you're doing this swap or making this transition, and then you have a third smart contract where you receive the value afterwards. Now, determining if your wallet earned or lost any tokens in this context can be really hard because it might not be possible for the wallet to know whether the recipient is actually you, right? Because that smart contract might be a shared thing between multiple people or other contexts. And so what XO does, among other things, is that it makes the system that you are using more trustworthy, right? It makes it so that the rules of the thing you want to engage with are defined once, you approve them once, you store them locally, and then whenever you try to interact with it, it follows the same rules every time. So yeah, I wanted to expand on that part.
The way you framed that was really good, and I want to share an even simpler example that might sink in easier for people. As Jonathan was saying, with dumb wallets, so all wallets today are fundamentally dumb. They don't understand transactions at a fundamental level. You might be able to catch if they changed, if a malicious, somebody's running exchange.com or whatever it is that you've been using, and then they got hacked, or somebody takes over and you don't realize that they've been, that it has changed hands, and they change it so that it says, oh, you're going to pay 10x the amount that you're supposed to. You can potentially see that. Like even a dumb wallet will show you like, hey, you're sending this much, and you'll be like, wait, that doesn't sound right. So you potentially can catch that, even though it's not presented in a easy to understand way. But what you wouldn't be able to catch is, for example, if you have a loan protocol, and so you're loaning me some X, and I'm putting up my house token for collateral. Okay, you would be able to see that, but then the rate of interest may be, I don't know, 3%. Dumb wallets have absolutely no way to show that. You are 100% trusting that whatever the website shows you is what's actually going into the smart contract, and you have zero ability to confirm that. So with these protocols that we're talking about in these templates, they always present things in a fixed, already approved, audited, trusted way, so that you can see, oh, I'm creating a loan. I'm putting this collateral. I'm getting this much money. The interest rate is this. And all of that information that you get has nothing to do with the website that you're setting it up on. So that means you could do it on a website. You could do it some with random, person that you met on IRC or chat group or whatever. It doesn't matter, because at the end of the day, you're getting your primary information from your wallet and the template, as opposed to trusting them.
Yeah, a even more straightforward example, just coming from that loan, is because changing the interest rate is more subtle. A more straightforward exploit would be that, if you have a dumb wallet, all you know is how many coins are going out. You think you are giving out your coins to a complex setup of loans and perhaps bonds or whatever with some other party, while in fact the website was changed. That smart contract just immediately pays Uname all of its money. It's gone. Your money goes into a smart contract. Yes, your wallet can tell you that. The exact same amount goes into that, and then that smart contract immediately goes to Uname. Yeah.
Yes, exactly. That's an even more straightforward. Yeah, they just replace the receiving address.
Templates at a minimum make sure that doesn't happen. Yeah,
that's great. We boiled it down to the quickest hack. I think, yeah, maybe we should start a separate business for hacking things. Okay. Yes, thank you very much, you guys. And I was also going to ask, Saqib, from your perspective, or is there anything we missed on kind of where XO is and where, the things that aren't done yet from your perspective?
I mean, I can talk about the product development and the challenges that we face about getting adoption, rather than the more specific challenges of how the templates interact with each other and the trust side of things. Although
those are left to be done. Those are serious issues.
Yeah. So when it comes to trust, obviously we've got the kind of blockchain trust and the user understanding what's going on with their smart contracts, but we've also got the social trust, which I think crypto in general and Bitcoin Cash as well is very far behind. If people have heard me talk about how far crypto is behind the fiat world, I think we have a lot of challenges. And so when it comes to XO, the first thing that we did was really take a step back and say, well, what are we trying to achieve? And what are we competing up against? So with the principles of Bitcoin Cash, again, right back to principles, this is a peer-to-peer electronic cash payment system for the world, right? And so we want adoption for millions, if not billions of people who are used to a current system. And so our competitors aren't really the crypto world. Right? We talk about Binance and Crypto.com and Coinbase, and even on the DeFi sector, we talk about MetaMask and some of these industry leaders. These aren't our competitors because, as we know, the crypto industry is really just about trading and speculation and meme coins. And XO and Bitcoin Cash is not about that. So we had to take a step back and look at what is our comparison and what is our market we're trying to get to, which is the fiat world. And we have to be extremely honest with ourselves. Why is the fiat world trusted and why is the crypto world not trusted? And there's multiple reasons for that. So we assessed all the applications, or as much as we could in the banking world. And again, we can't be arrogant. This industry, this multi-trillion-dollar industry, has so much money that's gone into research and development and product development over the past 10 years that it's actually a really good trusted experience now. People have gone from putting their money in their pillows or under their bed or burying gold to putting it into a bank, and now very confidently putting it into digital systems. And so we have to replicate that trust and get to that level where we're now saying, put it in the blockchain and be a self-custodian of your money. And to do that, you have to get the trust of the people who you're asking to sign up. So so that's the challenge. Like, how do you get people to trust what you've built, put their money in, which is probably the most trusting thing a human can do, and work with that. So the steps were, first, analyze our competitors and understand what the kind of industry standard is, and not be arrogant enough to think that we can do something better straight away, but at least catch up to the industry standard. And then the second thing, which is the exciting bit, and I think the bit that we're still trying to figure out is, okay, we're confident we can get to some level of the industry standard in terms of fiat, but we know that programmable money has massive potential. It's more interesting than just normal fiat. You can do more with what you have in a cryptocurrency or a Bitcoin Cash or a SAT compared to what you can do with a dollar in terms of smart contract functionality. So it's extremely powerful, but then it comes with the problem of how do you package that power into a trust where you have a wallet or a contract that says you have this money, but you need to understand it as a user, that you can trust what it's saying and it represents something that you can believe in. So this is where we're really, getting some interesting challenges, and I'll make it more tangible. So for example, when you open up a wallet or a banking app, you have a balance, and it's very clear. You've got this much in this account and this much in a loan, and this much is how much you owed, and this is where your direct debits are coming from. It's very clear. Whereas in XO, you're going to have a potential balance that has different sats in multiple different smart contracts, and some of them will be very clear and some of them will be a little bit more, Jonathan will be able to explain it better, but there'll be some contracts where you own some of the money, some of it is not spendable, some of it is spendable, some of it is unclear because it's dynamically changing. And so how do you represent that to a user that's used to having a strict kind of understanding of where their money is? And so this is both an exciting and challenging aspect of XO, like delivering the trust to the user at the end of the day.
Yeah. Oh man, that was great. We definitely need to slice that up into a whole bunch of shorts, because all of that was excellent information about what we're doing and why it's hard and why it's important. I was going to say, as an example for that might help people to grasp the difficulty. When you have a bank account or an account with a stockbroker or whatever it is, you 1000% trust them to represent things to you correctly. You go to their website and they show you some shit, or you open up your app and they show you some assets or whatever it is that you have. You completely trust them to show you the truth about what's going on. And you must trust them. You don't have an alternative. There is no alternative to going there and asking them, what's up? Where's my money? How's things going? They tell you and you trust that, and you have no option. With XO, it's very, very different. You could go to an app and have them show you a pretty presentation, but also you already have all that information. But now you have the challenge that you have a wallet that does all the things. So you may have a bank account. You have a bank account, you have a savings or a checking, and you have a current account, and you have some other investments and stocks and retirement account and whatever. You have all these different things, and a lot of those are at different places. So you have to go to different places to understand them. But with XO, now you have one wallet that does all these things. And so at some level, maybe not the perfect level, as Sakib was saying, at some level, you have to be able to show, the wallet has to be able to show you what's going on. And that's another one of the benefits of templates, is that it's all in human understandable language and presentation, so that at some minimal level, you can look at your wallet without needing to trust anybody and understand what's going on with your loan or with your bank account or with your, recurring payment stuff, or whatever it is. So that's a real challenge, because that doesn't exist anywhere. There's no app that you can go to that, presents every possible financial situation you can get into. That doesn't exist. And that's one of the things that XO has to do at some level. So it's a big challenge. It's an interesting challenge. All right.
It's a
Harvey,
major headache.
Oh yeah, go ahead, Sophie.
Yeah, I'm just telling you, it's not just a challenge. The amount of sleepless nights over the past year and trying to figure this out, going round in circles and how to present this, and there's still no solution that's like perfect. So yeah, I would call this like a massive challenge, more than just a headache.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. Yes. Harvey, I was going to ask, from your perspective of building the CLI wallet and the CLI app, have you seen any parts that you thought, this isn't really done yet, and this still has a long way to go, or whatever that? Have you had any of those?
There's definitely been parts where it's like, this isn't done yet. But they haven't been. They're parts that are clearly just not required yet. Like, they aren't the core features that I'm missing. It's always just, this function isn't there. It's being just, for the most part, working as intended, I guess.
Okay.
Like, I'm able to make contracts, able to deal with invitations, able to make broadcast transactions, sign them, receive them, find my money in my wallet. Like, everything's kind of just been working.
Okay, great. Yes, and it's a lot of those things that are not core, not the central aspects of it. There's a lot of those aspects that are not the central part of it, because, as Kiak said, it's big and it has to be relatively complex, because we're trying to make things simple for people, and to make things simple, it has to be quite smart and understand what's going on and make good decisions and make safe decisions. So it gets pretty complicated. And then there's the data, and you have to save the data and back up and make sure that everything is safe and so forth. So there's a lot of these side parts that are not central, but they still end up being very important. Yes, there's a lot of things left to build. Okay, great. Thank you guys for that.
I mean, you could argue like central to what?
Right?
Because central to safety, they're very important. But central to, say, template execution, then no, they're not necessary. Like, you can execute the constructions in a template without having a state sync server, and just do everything in memory, for example.
Yes.
So yeah, the XO project is fairly large because it sets not one but multiple ambitious goals. And right now, the place we are is that we have focused a lot on the core logic and the execution of these template instructions. And that is starting to pay off, and we're starting to be able to build things on top of it. But still quite far to go before it's mature enough to actually recommend anyone to build something with it.
Right. All right. Let's see if we can start a fight. I'm going to try to start a fight. So there's a bunch of different things that we could fight over. The one that's on the top of my mind is the issue of change. So there's these simple things that you might think of as simple in the current, if you're accustomed to making transactions with Bitcoin Cash or even other cryptocurrencies. There's the concept of change, and it's very simple because the only thing you do is very simple. Like sending and receiving is extremely simple. It's like the most simple thing you can do, and all the assumptions around it are clear. There's not really any uncertain parts to it. And so it seems like a very simple thing. But when it comes to a generalized system like we're working on, like XO, the question of change becomes an open-ended question that you have to figure out what to do with. So that's my, I'm going to put that one in the hat for our topic to fight on. Uname, did you have any topic you want to fight on?
Actually,
yeah, we don't have to start. Let's just have a fight over which thing to fight over.
I mean, I had that one topic, and then you blew it.
Which one?
Yeah, so the one commandment. That's all I do. That's literally all I do.
That's all I do here. I have one job.
Yeah,
okay.
exactly.
Jonathan, what were you gonna say?
Yeah, I was gonna say that like the way you portrayed it, like change is so simple in these other systems. I'm actually gonna challenge that.
Not yet. So you're not yet.
Thing.
You're in for the change fight. Okay, we have 2 votes for the change fight. Saqib,
I'm in for the change fight. I'm in for the estimated value fight. I'm
that's
in
a good
for
one.
the default locking script fight, and a handful of more. But
yeah, the default locking script is basically the change fight. Yeah, maybe. I think it is. Maybe it's not. Saqib, did you have any fights you wanna?
No, it's something.
Oh my god. Okay.
Yeah, for me, it's the front end wallet development aspect. It's the estimated balance and the spendable amount, which is driving me crazy. And it'd be very interesting to see what everyone else thinks about what they would like as their projected balance in a wallet, with the options being, this is everything that you have, and some of it is kind of locked away but can be spent under certain conditions, and that's your spendable amount, and it's like an estimate. Or would people prefer like a much more hardcore, rigid, this is exactly how much you can spend, and it's really kind of a firewalled, safeguarded amount in your wallet that is very clear, kind of freestanding Bitcoin Cash that you can spend, and it doesn't calculate all the other bits and pieces that you may have in your wallet. And so this spendable balance is kind of really, I'm going around in circles. So I'd be very interested to see what everyone says.
Okay, great. So we have 2 tied topics. We have the default lock scripts. We'll just start with that one, and then we have the how do you represent the value or the amounts or whatever it is that of what you have. Like how do you even describe this to a user of the wallet? Like this is what you have in a sensible way that builds trust, as you were saying. So okay, so we have those 2. Kiak, any that you want to do one of those or something different?
Go for change and balance. These 2 are really in my list. Okay.
All right. Okay, we've got 3 there. So Harvey, you won't be able to break the vote. So I'm just going to choose because we have 3 for everything. So yeah, let's go with the estimates part. Like what is the problem there? How do you represent that? I know, Jonathan, you have thought about this a huge amount. Like how what does it mean? And then I'll be able to fight with you because I'm sure we'll disagree about something. It'll be good. So how do what is this issue with sure. estimated or amounts or values? What is this?
Right. Yeah, so I'll first start to say that if you have one of those traditional wallets that has only one type of lock script, it might be a pay-to-public kiosk lock script, it might be a multi-sig lock script, it might be a vault. But the key core concept is that you have only one lock script across your entire wallet, and that whenever you are looking to spend any money, the only place where you can source any funds is from that lock script. In this condition, it is very straightforward and clear for your wallet to simply state that all funds that it can see on those lock scripts are to be considered spendable and your funds. So they can make an estimate that is very, very accurate, like essentially 100% accurate, where it simply says, this is your money. Now,
wait, let me explain real quickly. So when Jonathan said put on the lock scripts, that would just be like, for example, any Bitcoin Cash or Bitcoin wallet or whatever that you had today, it'll say you have this much BCH. That's the end of the story because, like he said, those are all sitting on what he called lock scripts, which is just addresses. would be the simplest way most people think about it. You've got money on addresses and you own those addresses. You're the one with the private keys. They're all yours. There's nothing more simple than that setup. And so, yeah, the lock script here, you could kind of replace it with the idea of address. That's just the current wallet. That's what we face. And it's very simple. And the wallet doesn't really have to make any decisions. Sorry.
Yes. So when we move from that into a wallet that has multiple different types of lock scripts that have different properties, you get a problem, right? Because when you're asking how much money you have, you're going to have to look at what can I actually spend, like where can I source my funds from to do something with them. And so if your wallet is, for example, like you have a multi-sig on one side and you have a single key and a public key, pay to public key hash on another side, then your wallet could choose to take the total funds of both of these and show them as your balance, right? And that might be, the right thing if you're looking at it from an asset perspective, like what's my total net worth. But it might not make sensible if you're going to the grocery stores and you want to pay for food. Because if the distribution of funds between these two are like you have $5 in the pay to public key hash and you have 5,000 in the multi-sig, and you go to the grocery store and you expect to be able to pay with the balance your app tells you, and suddenly you want to buy something that's more than $5 and it's not spendable. You can't actually use them without getting a second signature for them. So that's like one of the complexities that comes up when you have more than one spending condition or more than do you show what is considered like money that you can spend under any circumstances, or money that you can spend under specific circumstances to be your actual balance. Now, with XO, we of course take this to the umpteenth level somewhere and say that any kind of lock script humans can even imagine, written as a template somewhere, ought to be able to represent something for you in one of these cases. Which means that if you have some funds that is locked in a loan protocol, or if you have some funds that you're currently doing liquidity provisions on a trading protocol on, or if you have some funds in an hedge funding contract, or if you have funds in something else, all of these, we kind of need to answer the question, like, are these part of your balance, or is this money even yours to begin with? Because some of these things are maybe pooled contract, like 500 people put funds into one contract and then they get a receipt. So you have a claim to some of that money, but all of the money that's divisible on the blockchain isn't necessarily yours. And so this creates a lot of edge cases and a lot of situations where it's not easy to say exactly what is yours. It's not easy to say exactly what is spendable, and it's not easy to define like what the balance should be in your app. And to make matters worse, of course, if you have two apps that have all these capabilities, where one of them is, say, for a stock trader and the other of them is for, I don't know, a 15-year-old kid that wants to be able to spend money. Now, these two have different needs and different desires, and so the concept of a balance, or whatever you show on the home screen of your wallet, might be different for these target use cases. So yeah, there's a lot of complexities involved.
And another one, just in case people listening don't understand how ugly this problem is, it's not just a matter of, did you have $5 or did you have $6, or do you split it into 5 spendable dollars and 1,000 invested dollars that you can't touch? That's one problem. But there's another one. For example, you've put 10 BCH into some kind of polymarket equivalent bet on BCH. So you've put it into a prediction market. How much of that is yours? You have no way to know. There's literally no way to know. I mean, unless you're an insider trading and you're going to win, but you have no way to know. And so you can't even represent, it's 1,000 or it's 0. It could be anywhere between there. You don't know what the outcome of those is going to be. And if you have a loan where, let's say, I've received 1,000 BCH for putting my house token into a contract, the 1,000 BCH is mine. That's probably pretty clear. The house token, is that mine, or is that not mine? Like, there's these questions that don't even have direct answers. You can't just estimate it even. There's not even a meaningful understanding for estimating. So you have to be able to represent any kind of situation in some reasonable way. What do you think, Sakib? Do you have an answer for all those after? Because Sakib has beat his head against the wall repeatedly for months, trying to figure out how to represent these things. What did you think about all those? What's your feeling on how we should represent it?
Yeah, I've been going round and round in circles, various arguments, and sometimes just completely astounded with something that seems so simple ends up being like a 2-hour conversation about various permutations. So the real challenge is, again, going back to the core principles of who are we trying to onboard and what is the trust principle, and how are we going to get people to get into this new ecosystem, and what are their expectations? And as Jonathan said, of course, you're going to have different use cases. And realistically, you've only got one, at least to start with, one user interface, which is the wallet that you're building. You're not going to be able to create multiple wallets. So it's extremely difficult to figure out what to do. My dream would be to have a real simplified version and a kind of power version. That's probably the only answer that I can come up with enough ability for users to choose what kind of experience they want. And that really comes with just various settings and choices. So, for example, my biggest fear about this is, and what I think is our biggest target audience ultimately, is just normal people using P2P transactions, whether that's merchants or just users who are wanting to pay each other and save a little bit of money. And for that, I firmly believe that most people, when it comes to money, want to know specifically what they have. They do not want any estimations. They don't want any vagueness. They want to know, I check my balance and I've got $5, and tomorrow I can go and spend that $5. And that uncertainty is what causes anxiety and possibly reduces your trust in the system. So my default would be like, keep it as simple as possible, at least to get people into the system, and then they can learn and become power users as they become more familiar with the ecosystem they're in. So that's how I would want to play it. And then, of course, you have to build it. And what Jonathan and Keok have to do is build it to the point where you can have all these power features behind the scenes, but perhaps have a wallet that's dumb to start with, that you can switch gears depending on your requirements. But honestly, like, I don't have a clear solution. I think what I've got at the moment in the app, and we haven't showcased the latest advances in the wallet, but I think where we're getting to right now with the asset manager is starting to make sense to me. But that's only because I've been looking at it for 1.5 years. So I don't have somebody who hasn't seen any of it. It'd be interesting to see if they could understand what's actually on display.
Can I describe how I understand what you just said, and tell me if this is the same thing you're thinking? And this might be a start of a fight. I don't know. It'll be good anyway. So to start in the simple form, when there's very little or effectively zero uncertainty, what that could mean, the way I interpret that is, your wallet, the wallet that anybody has today, uses what Jonathan was calling P2KH, which is just simple ID of addresses. Somebody sends money to the address. It's a simple address that you have the private key for. That's it. When you want to spend it, you sign something that authorizes spending that coin, that UTXO. This is how all of the UTXO chains work, like Bitcoin, BCH. So that's the simple case. And that would be one of the simple examples where the wallet says, okay, we're going to do things like they used to be done, basically. You send money into these addresses that I have full control over, and I spend money from them. And this is the only money that I count as mine. Everything else goes in this big gray box that has varying levels of clarity, like your loan and your multi-sig wallet and the vault and the any hedge contracts. All this stuff goes into the big gray box that has varying levels of certainty. But there's a bright line between that and your certain part, where the wallet knows exactly what it's doing with these things. And then that could be done as the way it is today with that, like the P2PK, just simple addresses, or it could be done like where the wallet says, hey, my default is going to be this really cool vault thing where it has, you know, you can spend up to this much per day. But if you want to spend over that, you're going to have to put in a time lock, you know, so that it says, okay, yes, you can unlock the funds, but you're going to require a day of approval time to make it safer so that people can't just grab the money from you or something like that, or just to protect yourself from accidentally spending money or getting hacked or whatever. So maybe it'll decide, you know, a wallet will decide that's the default that we're going to use. So the certain thing is anything that's in this type of vault, and everything else goes in the gray box. Is that what you were saying, Sakib?
Yeah, basically, to start with, just going through a standard user who signs up to the wallet, and they have their their standard balance, and it just gets used as it does normally with like all other wallets. And then, of course, they're going to start using applications and developing smart contracts. And for me, to start with, is let's just keep the two things separate. And then in your wallet, you can go to your applications or you can go to your assets and manage those, but they don't count as your spendable balance. You can't go to the supermarket and spend your AnyHedge contract, like just as your default experience. Now, maybe there can be a point in time where we add settings to the wallet to say, okay, look, you can change your default configurations and you can go to an advanced power mode and you can say, look, my default is the vault if I go to the supermarket, or I do want to amalgamate the AnyHedge contracts with my Flipstarter pledges that I can potentially revoke and use that as my default spending. Sure, you can go to that level, but as your absolute baseline onboarding, like I really want to keep it as separated and firewalled as possible, but I have a feeling I'm going to lose that fight with this.
I don't know. I really like that you were clear and said spendable balance, right? Because that is one of the three, I think, distinctions that I am making.
Yeah, I tend towards the description that Sakib said, and the one that I explained is I've been leaning that way. That's what I think we should do. But it sounds like there's room for nuance here, right, Jonathan? Because you're talking about these other two numbers. Could you explain that, or
Yeah,
how would you present
absolutely.
those?
Yeah. So I'm coming at this from the from the underlying framework's perspective, like the engine that makes all of this run. And the way I see it is that wallets should be able to make choices for how they want to do, right? People should be able to make a wallet that's for traders. People should be able to make a wallet that's for just regular, like non-DeFi use if they want to, and so on. And so what I have in the template design is that I have set flags or configurations that the template makers can set that allows you to estimate or define multiple different things. And one of those things is the selectable property. It's maybe not the most explanatory name, but essentially, if an output is considered by a template to be selectable, then that indicates to the app or wallet that this output can be used in automatic coin selection. That is, if you're asking the question like what funds do I have that I could spend if I go to the grocery store right now, then any coin that is considered selectable is eligible to be listed in some kind of balance. While coins that are not selectable, on the other hand, have explicitly said that no, don't spend my coins without doing the very specific things that the template instructs you how to do. Don't just do all things automatically. And of course, there's a third situation case here where the template doesn't actually define this property, so it's undefined. And in that case, the standard behavior ought to be like, let's not spend it automatically because we don't know that it's safe for that purpose. So that's one of them, right? If the template has said that this is something that should or could or is eligible to be used in automatic coin selection. Now, that is not the technical spendability, because the technical spendability is, do I have all the requirements to actually spend this coin? And that is a question that can be answered on a technical basis, right? If you're talking pay to public key hash and in the template, it says that like to build an unlocking script, you need to have the following parameters. And in that list of parameters is only a single item, the private key, and the engine happens to have this private key, then it is technically spendable at any given moment. And so that's a technical definition. So why is this important? Well, the easiest example to explain the difference in importance here is that if you have, for example, a multi-sig wallet, then you might want to say that the funds in this wallet are intended to be coin selected, right? We are intending to spend this money in some way, and the template doesn't really dictate how or to when or under what circumstances. It just tells you how to create the lock-in script so you can receive the funds. But if it is multi-sig and you only have one of the signatures, then it's also maybe not spendable technically. The wallet doesn't have all the data it needs to execute and make that unlocking script. And so if you have funds that are both technically spendable and intended or allowed for coin selection, that makes for what I consider to be a very reliable spendable balance, something that if I were to go to the store to buy today, it would actually work. There's no technical or any hindering or anything that's stopping me from using them. So those are two of them. And the third part that I'll throw in here is the privacy consideration. So if you have coins that are in two different groups, right? And say that one of them is funds that I earmarked to spend on a bike in the future. And the other is funds I'll just spend on whatever I want. Now, if you're looking at these two pots of money, they would most certainly be technically spendable. And both of them could be used for spending, but they have different purposes. Now, if you move from what you intend to use with them over to what you do not want to use them in, you can take a privacy perspective on it instead. So the example would instead become, say you have one pool where your coins have gone through some kind of mixer or some fusion, or where you know that the source of these funds is proper according to whatever definition of proper you would like to have. Then you can say for certain, like, okay, so these funds here, they have a certain level of privacy. There are a certain level of establishment on their source and whatnot. And then you have some other coins in another pile that have a different level of privacy. What you might not want to do is mix the two, right? You might not want to spend, buy a burger at the burger store and end up mixing and linking the two piles of money together by spending them in the same transaction. So yeah, we have some privacy concerns, we have a technical spendability, and then we have if it's intended to be used or allowed to be used in coin selection. And all of these together forms a big little matrix that some people will probably want to see some permutation of them as their balance, and some people would probably want to see different things.
Great explanation. And yeah, I was just thinking that maybe actually we should use instead of having the privacy as a flag, it would be more like a string where you can be like, this is privacy group, Fusion 3. And anything that's within the Fusion 3 group, you can consider spendable together. And if it's not, then don't by default mix those up. That might be an interesting approach to it. I was going to add one more because I think there's really, obviously not infinite ways to slice this this multi-dimensional problem, this cake, but there's another one, which is spendability can be split into directly spendable, and then there's spendable right now, instantly. Because, for example, if you're using the normal addresses like people are accustomed to, you and your wallet have absolute control right now over spending those coins. But if you have a multi-sig wallet or a vault where maybe you're for safety, you have it split between you and your spouse, or you and your business partner, where both of you need to sign for it, or 2 of 3 people need to sign for it, that's also immediately spendable, but it's not instantly spendable because you are going to get to the grocery store and be like, okay, here's my payment. Could you wait? I'm not sure if my business partner is available. You know, my spouse is available. Just give me a minute and see if they're available. Right? That's a horrible user experience. So there may be very many ways to slice this pie, and it's impossible to predict all of these generic ways. And then this just creates headaches for Saqib. So I really appreciate Saqib trying to figure that out.
So I can imagine one more property that we could potentially add if we wanted to, and that is whether something that is currently not technically spendable could become technically spendable by simply requesting more data. And a multi-sig where you just have another party provide a signature fits in this case. But you would want to set this property to false and disable it if you have, for example, a time-locked vault. Because if you have funds and they come in and they're not spendable for 2 weeks, then you could have it set so that the engine could know with certainty that like there's no point in creating an invitation to spend these funds because they will not be spendable either way. So I can see some distinction there that we could maybe add as an optional thing.
Yeah. And then there's another aspect, which is there's some things that you put money into a contract, like any hedge contracts, where or a loan or whatever, where the value that you have changes over time based on other external information. And this is a really ugly place to be. Like, you don't want to depend on external information as much as possible, but there's places where it's absolutely necessary. Like, you have to depend on an oracle to tell you the price of something. Yeah, and so in that kind of case, literally by the minute, or even less in some cases, maybe your balance is changing according to the price. And this isn't like a simple mechanism like current wallets where they just look up the price of how much USD does this exchange claim that you can get for this much BCH or whatever the exchange is, and then you just use this generic rate that doesn't really connect to reality. You know, there's going to be other issues, fees, and so forth. So yeah, these things that can change over time based on oracle messages or others are an additional dimension to all of this.
So I actually want to jump in and say one more thing, like on this entire subject, and it's that if you're looking at the crypto ecosystem like broadly right now, then the kind of issues that we are talking about here, they are just not addressed elsewhere. So it's kind of interesting that we're in a situation now where we're looking at the problems and we're seeing not a single easy solution, right? But instead, we're seeing a large number of varying solutions that have different trade-offs. And I think this is a really good thing. And I think that it's good that we are making the engine so that the apps can get the information and then choose how they want to present or how they want to behave, what policies they want to have as to what to spend and not. Because it shows that we have gotten to a point now where it's not an infeasible problem. It's not an unsolvable problem, right? It's just a problem that has trade-offs, and we have to kind of decide what trade-offs do we think provide most value to the users.
This is a great segue into templates, actually. So again, thinking about it from a broader perspective, when you have your banking app and you're signed up with HSBC or I don't know Chase, and you have your various accounts, and they all have rules and regulations. You know, in certain accounts you're only allowed to withdraw, $25 a day. Other accounts you're only allowed to put in this much. Sometimes it's locked for a year. Sometimes you do have multi-signatory accounts, and the reason why they can do that is because it's all centralized. One bank has its own accounting system and sets its policies, right? And then when I think about XO and you think about all these various properties, spendable, selectable, privacy, whatnot, you think, oh, this would be great. This is amazing. Like what's being built under the hood is amazing, and it would be great if GP and XO could have like a set of products and templates that would fit neatly into all of this. and then just control it all. And then you think, well, no, hold on, this is a permissionless decentralized system, and so you can't do that because anybody can create any contract, and XO has to be able to understand everything. And this is where I think XO actually solves that particular problem by having these templates that are, community audited or verified. And so it's all game theory, but one would anticipate that hopefully you end up getting various financial products built on XO that reach a certain standard that actually the XO engine and therefore the wallet can understand and put into these various brackets quite well and display them well. And because these templates hopefully are only going to be a handful, because these are the ones that have been audited and accepted, that the rogue templates that don't meet good standards won't actually get used by anybody. So perhaps, as Yunam was saying, it's all about templates, and the trust of the template is what's going to solve all this. So we're not going to get really ridiculous products on there that XO doesn't really understand what's going on.
Yeah, I think that won't pan out as you hope, Sakib. We already know from the broad crypto ecosystem that experimentation and speculation and hype is going to drive a very large number of random things, good or bad. It's going to be a mixed bag. But I do agree that if you have a wallet where the wallet makers provide, for example, a trusted whitelist of things that the wallet maker themselves have verified, and then you have very, very stern warnings whenever someone tries to go outside of those painted lines and try their own things, then yeah, you can definitely get into a situation where for most of the people and for most of the use cases, you don't have to go through experimental stuff. And that would be really good.
Yeah, we haven't had enough fights. Like, this didn't turn into a fight. I'm kind of disappointed. Kiak, was there anything we could fight? What was the other one? It was default lock scripts. We could definitely fight
default
about
lock
that.
scripts.
What's the story with that, Kiak? Like, what's the issue?
Before that, first I'd like to make some comment on the balance itself. I think there are two separate topics. First is the net worth itself, and second is spendability. And I really like your point when you were saying immediately spendable or spendable at some point of time. Basically, I would say conditional spendable, and hopefully that sums up a lot of internal pieces. For example, spendable but with privacy, and so on and so forth. For example, and another example would be if you have done a bid on something, it's the money is technically yours if somebody outbids you, but it's probably not yours if the other party doesn't, and you end up with that money. So this problem statement, in my opinion, should be handled. The net worth problem should be handled by the templates, but the spendability problem, well, of course, that also can be handled by the templates. But it's a simple segregation of how I see how we use the financial products in the real world today. So I only use the spendable money for most of my, entirely livelihood, I guess. But at the same time, I have to make certain specific decisions if I have to spend money or use the money that is in my quote unquote net worth. For example, I could have done a fixed deposit in one of the banks, but that is spendable, of course, but that is a conditional spend. For us to provide that experience where you can just directly right away spend it, we need to have, well, I'm just sharing my opinion, but we need to have this probably something like tagging, where the money that you can spend it right away and that is unconditional, be it Vault or be it a P2P catch or any other mechanism for that matter, has a special privilege, but at the same time that it gets included in the net worth. Now I'm trying to distinguish these 2 points, where spendability and net worth, although spendability is basically a subset of net worth, but it's important for this particular segment, that is spreadability, to have so much of discussion, because that is what we do on daily basis. But the network doesn't require that significant attention all the time. So I would say, like, if something is spendable, maybe based on time or based on conditions, those conditions should be explicitly mentioned in the template. And as Sakib was saying, community audited and trusted templates with a very high standard would have these definitions, where they will be able to tell the wallet itself that this is how much this party probably owns. I'm saying probably because based on multiple conditions, I guess. Taking example of the bid itself. But then again, this can come under an unknown tag or conditional tag, depending on how mature the template is, and eventually how the template standard itself evolves. Yeah, basically, since the discussion revolves around the spendability itself and the net worth, I would say distributing these independently and then prioritizing which one to show so that the user experience stays pretty smooth sounds like a reasonable thing for me. And then, of course, it can be tentative or probable net worth or unknown net worth for different cases, depending on the maturity of the template. That's my opinion.
Great. Yes. Yeah, we all tend to agree here. I guess we've talked about this a lot. We've had a lot of these discussions where
we didn't always agree on this.
We definitely did not in the past. But at the same time, I think a lot of it is, when you're talking about something new, you think you're talking about the same thing, and it turns out that you're not. Now it's easy for us to say, oh, there's spendable, instantly spendable, net worth. But 3 months ago, that concept was still it wasn't as quite as clear to us in the past. Yeah,
it was balance. Right? All of these things
were just called balance. Yeah, and it was like, what the hell is balance? What does that mean? Yeah. I did want to nerd out for just a second for the developers who are listening. There's a very, very cool thing with these templates where, if you have, for example, an AnyHedge contract and it has an unknown value because it depends on an Oracle message or whatever it is, or a loan that depends on the conditions, the current conditions to tell you what it's worth. If you have a wallet and a template that doesn't really understand how to do that calculation, you're kind of in a bad spot, because now your wallet has to be a general app that understands every single financial protocol out there, which is impossible. That's definitely impossible. And so there's a very cool thing with templates where you can inject Bitcoin Cash virtual machine code. You can inject code into the template in a safe way, not if you're imagining like we inject a little website or some thing into the template, like not that. We're talking about, we just put into the template, there's some very straightforward code made in Bitcoin Cash scripting language. And that very directly can calculate in the same way that a transaction would calculate. What's the output of this loan? Like, what's the value of it? What if I did this? How much would it be worth? What if the price is this, according to this Oracle, what would the value be worth? And that's done by the template, which is important, right? Because if you don't have that, now you can't get this net worth estimate. You can't understand what it's worth to you, because now you have to trust some website to tell you how to calculate that, which is bad. It's not maybe horrible, because just giving you the wrong information may not be the end of the world, but it makes the experience worse, that now you have to trust, this website based on the DNS, which is, like xyz.com. You have to trust xyz.com not to change hands and give you the wrong information, or to be hacked and give you the wrong information, or just to be malicious and give you the wrong information. So yeah, with the templates, they have this very cool feature that they can actually do calculations within the template without needing to trust somebody. So it's just a very cool aspect of it.
So early on in this description, you used the word inject, and I just want to clarify that there is no injection in any kind of way, shape, or form here. So what it actually is that the templates that make transactions, what it does is that it takes your input parameters, right? The data you have or the intent and decisions that you want to make. And then they use the structures inside of the template to formulate your final locking script. And this is written in the Bitcoin Cash virtual machine language. But it does so piecewise. It doesn't have one big chunk of locking script at the bottom and just insert variables. Rather, it builds up your transaction step by step based on this data. And with this, we need to have some kind of evaluation part, because if you have, I don't know how to properly describe it at the moment. And anyways, inside of the template, there are these intermediate variables where you get to say that this thing A here is, and then you type out a Cash VM evaluation code. And so this A then gets reused in other spaces. What we have done in the template is that we have set a specific property on each output that says, this is your estimated ownership in this output. And what it does is that given sufficient conditions, right, given that it has the information necessary to execute that virtual machine script, it will just simply, whenever you ask it to, evaluate what that script is and give you the return value. If your wallet is missing some of this data, right? Say, for example, in the case of Anyhedge that relies on an Oracle, say if your wallet doesn't have that Oracle information, it doesn't have this Oracle message to give to the engine and say, hey, evaluate under this condition, then what's going to happen is that the evaluation is going to fail, and that is going to propagate upward as we cannot determine what this is. And inside of your wallet or application, it's going to say, there is an output here. The output has this many Satoshis or Bitcoin Cash or fungible tokens or whatever in it, but we don't know if those are actually supposed to be yours, or if they're supposed to be someone else, or if they're supposed to be ownership-less. We don't know anything about these assets that are inside of this output because we failed to do this execution. But if we succeed at doing that execution, if we do have an Oracle message in the case of Anyhedge, then we can accurately tell you at any given point in time what your estimated value of your Anyhedge position actually is, because we know how much of those Satoshis would pay out to you if we were to simulate the actual outcome. So yeah, it's kind of nice because it allows us to have like shared outputs, shared ownership and outputs. And that sounds horrible if you're looking at it from like the BTC side, where you should have a virtual output and you should be happy. But it's actually really, really meaningful in the context of, for example, liquidity pools, where a gang of people put funds into the same contract so that the contract can operate with high liquidity and good efficiency. But now all the funds are intermingled because they are fungible inside of that contract. And if you don't have a specialized app to tell you what that actually means for you, and if your wallet is naive, then those money doesn't exist anymore, right? If you do have a specialized app, it might tell you this much of it belongs to you and this much of it belongs to someone else. And it's great when that app keeps working and when you don't mind going to that app, but eventually the app might fail. The website might disappear. A lot of things can go wrong along that third party that you are trusting to do all these things for you. So if you instead have this inside of a template and you have the conditions necessary to do the evaluation yourself, then you actually have a first-party trusted view of your own data. And that is really, really meaningful.
Hell yeah. All right. I was just looking at the time, and we managed to not get in a fight, which I don't know if that's good or bad, but we didn't. And we seem to mostly be on the same page at this point, which is great. But yeah, we should probably wrap up for this one. And maybe on the default lock scripts change issue, that kind of topic, maybe we can bring it up the next time. So yeah, let's go ahead and wrap up. Before we go, is there any closing remarks you guys would like to make? Something that you think was missing that we should, at least in passing, mention to people who are interested in XO and what's going on with XO? Maybe stuff about Bliss the upcoming conference. Anything you want to get out there before we wrap up? You name anything you wanted to add?
So yeah, so what we are talking about here is the foundation of everything. And it lays out what.
Can you guys hear Unim?
Do you hear me? Do you hear me? Do you hear me?
Yeah, I can hear you.
Yes, I hear you just fine,
Okay.
your name.
So yeah, what we're doing here is lays the foundation of everything to come, and it kind of caps like what how good things can get, but it is important to not lose sight on what actually matters when it comes to mass adoption. At least I think that mass adoption, among other things, and trust that people give to the BCH ecosystem and so on and so forth, is ultimately not going to be decided by how good the wallet is, although the wallet is an important part of it. It is ultimately going to be decided by how good the killer app or multiple killer apps are. So it is important not to lose sight on that. There are multiple ideas and plans and schemes on what kind of awesome stuff could be built on XO once it's out, and that is going to be the critical component for success. But until then, we should not lose sight on them. That's all I want to say.
Yeah. So John here lost his audio, so he didn't actually hear me like trying to jump in. So I'll jump in now instead. Yeah, I think it's good for people to know that most of us are actually going to show up at BCH Bliss. And so you can not only get a hands-on, see our actual tools and things in a demonstration, but there's also going to be a presentation on the topic. So if you're interested in XO and you want to be early and see everything, then come to BCH Bliss and you can see everything there. I'm going to leave the mic open to the next person who have some final words to impart.
Saki, perhaps?
Yeah, I want to echo what Unim said. Really, we've spent a lot of the time, or I probably usurped a lot of the time talking about the wallet and the balance thing. But XO really is an ecosystem designed for developers to create apps easily. And what we really anticipate and hope is that we have an explosion of apps developing onto the Bitcoin Cash ecosystem, and the adoption will be a combination of both developers creating these apps in a much easier way and having an onboarding mechanism, whether that's through the wallet or not, to start utilizing these apps. And I think the two together with as great a user experience as possible is what's going to make the ecosystem thrive. And so it'll be step by step in a circular way, and hopefully it will spiral upwards. And and my final remark at the end of every one of these conversations is I always have a big headache about the UI, because all this technical amazement and power comes to the forefront, and then I feel like just telling everybody, well, you design the UI then, because it's still such a challenge. Because my last point is, when you go to the ATM and you click withdraw and it asks you like 3 questions, do you want to use withdraw from savings, checking, or current? And that decision in itself still gives me a headache. Like, I don't know what to press. So it's going to be remarkable how to present all this power in a way that people adopt. But yeah, I hope the ecosystem will allow people to onboard through development and user base.
Yeah, I can't wait to get this out there and help us fulfill the dream of peer-to-peer electronic cash. That's fair.
Yeah, as Jonathan and Steve touched on, we're going to be, or a few of us, or one of us, going to be at Bliss. And XO is meant to be a framework for developers to be able to work with Bitcoin Cash smart contracts. So hopefully we'll be able to demonstrate the ease of use of using the engine or using those frameworks to work them efficiently and be able to inspire or intrigue more people to be working on systems to grow adoption.
All right. Well, I guess that wraps it up, everyone. Thank you for coming.
Good to be here. Bye.
And we will see you next time.